Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lion's Den and another episode in our Blue Collar Ballers series. Today we speak with Shawn Beard, who is the CEO and founder of Integrity Fence, located in the Denver area, just south of Denver. And this is a really interesting conversation because Shawn, he has grown his fence company to be quite large at this point. And as we dig into, some of the ways that he's done that, we sort of find out all of these different avenues for fence contractors to go when they're looking to expand their revenue streams, whether that's getting into decking or whether it's selling materials directly to, DIY fence builders and that sort of thing. It's a very interesting conversation in that way. We also talk about, as you scale your business, what are those levels of size, those tiers that you reach as a company in terms of like annual revenue, where all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I have all this new set of challenges that I'm going to have to overcome. And so we talk through those different tiers and Shawn's experience in scaling through those. So really smart guy. Sounds like they have a really, really great fence company. And I encourage all of you to give this a listen.
So Shawn, I want to start with your background a little bit. Obviously, you've got this very successful company now, Integrity Fence, but I want to go all the way back to before you started the company and maybe like your early career, because I'm always interested in what gets people like into the world of construction and the trades in the first place. So like, how did this all begin for you?
It's interesting. I went through a big life change. I went through a divorce, and I used to own a big mortgage company and had, 14 loan officers, was very successful. But, going through a life change like that, I had to kind of reinvent myself. And it's kind of interesting when I tell people now I'm a fencing contractor. They're like, how did you go from mortgage to fencing? And I'm like, I can't really answer that. But what happened was as I was reinventing myself, someone I knew offered me a job fencing, and it was a smaller company. So I went to work for him and kind of picked it up quickly, became a foreman, kind of helped him grow his business a little bit. And then from there, I ended up going to a larger fence company. And there I really learned some technique. I really learned, I wasn't even a foreman with them. I was just a second man, but we worked in the builder division. So we had to build 14 different types of fences on any given day. So it taught me a lot of some different techniques and so forth. I'm usually a guy though that goes to work for somebody and then realizes that maybe I could do something better on my own. In this case, it wasn't that. It was that I had foot surgery, and being that I hadn't been with the company and the new FMLA laws, I had to take time off, and I did under their short-term disability. But they told me you have to come back to work, and I said, well, I can't bear weight on my foot. I'm not cleared. And they said, well, we're going to have to terminate you. And I said, well, do what you have to do. And that was really about the time of COVID was just hitting. And what's funny is I started Integrity Fencing back in March of 2020. We just celebrated our 5th year in business. And the company didn't know that, well, they shut down their residential division and they took, COVID money from the government for that. But they were giving out all their references, all the referrals to other fence companies. Well, they didn't know that Integrity Fencing was actually AKA Shawn Beard, who used to work for you. And so all through COVID, they started giving me all the referrals and putting my name out there. And I really just started growing the business. I started out with just me and another guy building fence. And then I realized, hey, I can sell fence. And then I realized I can get other people to kind of do what I do. So I started one crew. And shortly after that, I started another crew. But it was really ridiculous. If you come into my establishment today, you would never think we started this way. I have today we have a 7-acre lot, and I got a fleet of 25 vehicles. But I started with nothing. I didn't even have a truck. I hired guys that had trucks, and I'd use like the Home Depot trailers that you can rent, and I didn't have an auger, so I was inside of Home Depot twice a day, picking up an auger and dropping it off, hopefully within the 4 hours. And if I didn't, I'm like, well, we got it for the day, guys. And then I had the amazing idea to start a second crew. So all in all, I'm the guy that's the buyer. I'm also having to get the wood to the job site, and I don't have a yard yet. So I have to load up the truck every day with tools, go drop them off, hope it's a big job and I can leave the tools there for a day. If not, I got to pick them up at the end of the day. Then I got to rent an auger. I got to take the tear out myself to the dump. And then I got to have the materials there. And then when I'm done with all that, I have to go do bids all afternoon and hope that the crews don't need anything. I tell the story now, but it was literally ridiculous. I worked 18 hours a day for 2 years, at least 8 hours on Saturday. And if I wasn't asleep at work or at church, I was work. It was one of those three things. And luckily at that time, I had that freedom in my life. I was single. I was a part-time dad. I'm a full-time dad now. But at the time, I had the freedom to do it. And as the company continued to grow, we just continued to add people. We kept moving into a little bit larger yard. I kept, reinvesting into the company, buying more tools, buying some trucks, buying some things. And, it just worked out. Is really a lot of grace and a lot of favor and a lot of hard work got us to kind of where we're at. So we were growing exponentially. First year we did just under $1 million. Second year was 1.75 million. Next year was over 3 million. And we've just been growing like that. I think last year we hit close to $10 million in revenue. And I think this year we'll easily see conservatively 13 million, but more like 15 million. And we just kept growing our team. And I kept finding people that could do what I could do about 80% as good as I could do it. And that was the qualification. And what I found out is I could find people that could do things 100% better than I could do it sometimes. So whether it's a salesperson or a recent hire that I did was a director of operations who I brought in, I got lucky with this hire. He's been with me 3 months and he's already reshaping how the company's running. Today, I can say my company's running better than it ever has. Funny story is I just moved into this 7-acre lot and the old company that I got terminated from is only 5 lots over from me. And they're not happy that I'm down the street from them. There's not a lot of room in a market for a large fence company. But luckily in this market, it keeps opening up for me. And the two dinosaurs fence companies that are the market leaders in my current market set are kind of fading out. They've been around for 30 or 40 years. It's funny because I beat out that company that I used to work for on a $2 million HOA bid, and they decided they wouldn't sell to us because we were across town before. So my guys would come by and buy hinges or something if it was more convenient, but they now told us that they won't sell to us, which I felt was just one of those growing pains kind of along the way. But it's not all that glamorous. I tell you, hey, we're at 10 million, but I still have my own struggles scaling up because we went from a market set of backyards to venturing into commercial to venturing into now we're dealing with national builders. And that's a big scale up because you got commercial jobs that don't pay you for 90 days and you have to front all the money and the labor and the materials and you might not be getting paid for up to 90 days. And as you grow, those jobs continue to get bigger. It might be $100,000 job, but then as you keep scaling up, we just contracted a $500,000 job with a national home builder, where I have to make sure I'm solvent enough to make all that happen because my subs get paid on a weekly basis. And being a sole owner, it's not for the faint in heart. I can say that. But however, I have a great team around me. A lot of my managers have been with me. One has been with me 4 years. He's my project manager. My operations manager on the inside, she's been with me 3 years. I have another commercial and residential sales supervisor. She's just cleared 3 years with me as well. So I've had a team that has some longevity. And so we are just continuing to grow. One of the things that you run into in a situation like mine is keeping the culture and keeping the vision in front of you. I know that we recently had Tony come in for a consult with us because I kind of told Tony, I said, hey, we went so far. So Thornton Consulting Group came in, did an amazing job for us. But I said, Tony, I've come this far, but I want some outside eyes on this and I want some outside help on this. And Tony came in and was able to evaluate our team and kind of give us some marching orders going into this next year. And it's been great because for the first 5 years, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what the vision was and I knew what our mission statement was and I knew how to move forward. Now it's kind of an interesting time in my life because now I have to rewrite the script for the next 5 years. I have to decide where are we going? what direction are we going to go? Because there's a lot of possibilities for us. But my goal is to make this a $20 million company. And I think we're well on our way to getting there. But I would encourage any fence contractor to decide how big you want to get and decide that at some point. My philosophy is we keep growing. So I'm all in at this point, and I'm choosing to be the biggest guy on the block. But, there's not room for big fence companies in every market. So I know fence contractors have to decide, do I want to be 2-3 crews? What's profitable for me? Because at some point, profitability gets capped, right? How many trucks you have on the road? How productive can you be? How well can you manage it? How well can you manage the supply and the workflow? But today I'm very honored by the team that I have. So one of the things that we talk about is I use an acronym for TEAM, and it stands for Together, Empowered, Aligned, Making a Difference. And my whole theme behind it is that my team makes me better. And so none of us can do the job from start to finish on our own. And so it takes a team. And I'm just very grateful because we have a great reputation. When we look on Google, we have 400 plus reviews and a 5-star rating. We really go out of our way to make sure that the customer has a positive customer experience. So when Tony came in and did a consult for us, it was great just because he's seen all this before. He has the knowledge, and he was able to identify our strengths, our weaknesses, and, really confirm for me, hey, Shawn, a lot of the things you're doing are right, but we need to work on these things. So Tony was great at getting us some marching orders for this next year. But so now here we are, still striving for more market share within our market and trying to determine in the next 5 years. My goal right now is saying, all right, this was a very successful 5 years. We made it this far. I never planned on doing it, but I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity. People ask me, hey, Shawn, would you do this again if you had the chance? I'd have to say, I don't know. It just really worked out this time. Like I said, a lot of grace, a lot of favor, and the timing of it. I think starting the business in COVID, every fence contractor did pretty good, right? Because everybody was home. Nobody could go anywhere. So people were spending money on their homes. Supply line got a little crazy, but that's what made me become a supplier. Back then I was calling mills, and I'm just a small contractor with a couple of crews. Why would they talk to me? But I got connected in the right places with a few places. And now today I got a couple, 3-4 mills on the line that I can call at any time, and I have a line of credit with them, and I can just move forward. And so we've become a supply company, and now we're actually selling a lot more to the do-it-yourselfers and to other contractors. And we're providing quality materials for them and being a source for them on this side of town. We're in Southwest Denver. And so there's not a big supplier on this side of town, except for my old employer, who's a few lots over from us. But what we have as a product and a price far outweighs what they do. So as we rest in our position, we're just continuing to grow. So we're very thankful. I'm very grateful to be able to look back and say, hey, in this 5 years, this is what we've done. And, it's been a success story, but it didn't come that easy. I didn't start with anything. I didn't start with a truck. I didn't even have a trailer. I eventually got a truck. I got a trailer. And today, like I said, we're grateful to have a fleet of 25 vehicles. And, we got them all wrapped. They look nice. We have a great reputation and a great presentation. All my guys show up in uniforms, and we try to be that top-notch fence company.
Yeah. Well, that's a crazy story. I mean, what really kind of strikes me about it is, it sounds like you've grown really fast. It's been 5 years, and you've gone from, $1 million in the first year to 13 million, on pace for this year. Were there steps along that growth where you hit 5 million, let's say, and you were like, oh my God, there's all these new challenges as a $5 million company that I have to deal with and I have to figure out. And you as the owner in the early days, obviously you just did everything, but at a certain level, you had to step back and start empowering your team. Right. So what are those different levels as a fence company grows? Is it the $3 million mark, the $8 million mark? What are the levels you think?
Yeah, I think up to 6 million, we were good, and the growth came easy. At 6 million, you really get confronted with your processes. At that point, you have to rewrite how you do things. What you do that next year, you couldn't have done. You couldn't do what you did the previous year into the next year, because until you automate some processes or maybe update your software or do different processes. So every year after that $6 million mark, you're going to have to reinvent how you do things. New operating procedures, maybe new software. And what we've had to do is just continue to grow. So every year we've had to really evaluate. Up to that $6 million mark was good, but then you started stepping on your toes. You started, bumping your head at $6 million, and you realize, hey, we need a better process. We need a better system. So it's constantly evolving at that point. And it's been recently where I've been a very involved owner. Like I usually know what's going on with my company. We're doing a lot of commercial, but we're also doing a lot of residential. In the summer, we're doing we're doing a mile of fence a week at 40 different locations. So you can imagine the amount of work that goes into that, and the coordination that goes into that, the amount of warranty you have to deal with. So one year, I think about a year and a half ago, 2 years, we had to reinvent how warranty was done, because we ran into a train wreck of way too much warranty, more than we've ever done. So as we continue to grow, we had to completely revamp warranty and the processes there. And we've continued to do that ever since. We've actually just recently changed our warranty to kind of more match the market of what everybody else is doing. And just an example, we had a nice 3-year warranty on everything, full replacement, anything like that, because we wanted to be that contractor that people trusted. And, I didn't know people didn't trust contractors until I became one. And so I offered a really good warranty. But what's funny is we've just recently had to change our warranty to a 10-year labor only warranty to match everybody else in the market, because we did some due diligence and some guerrilla marketing and got some bids from other fence companies. And out of 8 bids, everybody has the same bid, whether you're a Stand Strong Fence with a lifetime labor only warranty, or you're a Top Rail Fence franchise with a 10-year warranty. So nobody in the market is offering a warranty like us, and we can't outsell that warranty. When customer hears 10 years versus 3 years, but don't understand the details of it, my guys can't outsell it. So we've just had to adapt to the warranty, which I'm not too upset about, because it reduces my warranty costs a lot and the amount of money that goes out. Because when I started this business, I didn't calculate into my business model warranty and the costs associated with it. So it's one of those things where we just continue to have to adjust warranty. So that's one of the recent changes we made this year, was kind of adapting to what everybody in the market's doing. We still try to separate ourselves from everybody else in the market. There's certain things we do that no other fence company does. One of those things is like we do stainless steel picketing nails, because we can guarantee that they won't bleed in our climate due to the tannins of the wood and the moisture in our climate. Hot dip galvanized will still bleed. So we do things a little different. We're a turnkey company on residential, so we set and finish the same day. But there's certain things we do. We automatically upgrade the gate posts and the hardware on every job. It's not an additional cost. It's just something we do. So we really want to drive quality. And honestly, my whole point is that I want to build your fence like we're building our own fence. So in the quality that I would use on building my own fence is the same quality that I want to use at building our client's fence. So it's one of those things where we just want to be a little bit set apart from everyone else. We want to drive a higher quality because we cater to a higher end client. And I'll be honest, when people call in for to schedule an estimate, if they kind of indicate to my appointment setter, hey, we already got 5 bids. We just want another bid. We want the cheapest price. We just kind of save them their time right there and tell them, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, we're probably not your contractor. So it's probably best if you call one of these other guys, because we got a high overhead. We got things like that. But up until last year, we were driving all appearance grade lumber. All my posts, top cap, all those things, even rails were appearance grade. We're still doing appearance grade top cap at this point, because we serve a higher demographics on this side of town. But yeah, so we just continue to keep the vision that we've had. And that's really being a quality fence contractor, being that somebody that someone can trust, knowing that we're going to be around to service your warranty, and being able to give you a better presentation. And our goal here is just to kind of outwork our competition.
Yeah. I saw on your website, I was kind of poking around on there, and I saw that you guys also do decking. Is that correct? So you've sort of grown into another product offering as well?
So Dex is something we've done for a few years now, and
Okay.
we're mainly a fence company, but we do about probably up to 30 deck projects a year. And that's been great because it's another part of the market that we can capture, and it's pretty good revenue. And we like doing it. And all in all, we want to be able to do like a backyard makeover. I love it when we go into a house and they're like, hey, we want a deck or a pergola along with a fence. And we can really contribute to the aesthetic change of someone's backyard. So that's always exciting to do. And whether it's a basic deck or more intricate, we just pulled off a $100,000 deck, and we're about ready to engage on another one in like a Zen garden setting with a lot of elevation changes, but low to the ground, no railing. We're excited for this next one that's coming up on our books. But yeah, so we do that. We also do full gate fabrication. So we have a fabrication shop here on site, and we fabricate cantilever gates. We fabricate our chain link gates, everything here. We do bollards for commercial, but we also do automation. So we do full automation. We just pulled off a very nice entryway to a subdivision that was a very nice subdivision, but they were having problems with theft, people getting their packages stolen. So we just pulled off a beautiful entry gates, complete with signs that match the logo of the HOA, and very grateful to be a part of that project. But it was for one of the projects here, West Polo Club in Denver, and they contracted with us, and we had to do cutouts for turnarounds for our fire permit, all the knock switches, all the automation, and it just came out beautiful. So yeah, we keep challenging ourselves with new projects. And like I said, we just landed 2 national builder accounts. So we're excited. There's a lot of room in our market for things like that. And we have a great area manager for our commercial that we brought on about a year ago. I think his year is up actually like today. He's been with us a year. And the amount of exposure that he's given us with his experience coming on board with us to kind of grow commercial has been amazing. So, the sky's kind of the limit in that department. So we're excited about continuing to grow that. But, I'd advise any fence contractor that that scale up is hard, especially when you're a sole owner. If you don't have, an SBA loan backing you, or you don't have other investors, you have to scale up properly. And it's one of those things. We were fortunate enough to dominate the residential market, and the residential market really creates that cash flow for us on a daily basis, because we're in and out same day on most jobs. So therefore our billing cycle is, less than a week from deposit to final invoice. But not the case with commercial. You might be on a job that, it's not a start and finish. It's, you're waiting on other contractors to do their part. You're waiting on concrete to get poured. You might be 4 months into the job, and you're still not done. So not to mention, you're going to have to wait another 60, 90 days to get paid. So that's been a little bit of a hardship for me, but also growing the team and making sure this winter, if I'm being completely transparent, this winter was a hard winter for me financially because we have a bigger team and I had to keep the team intact to go forward with what we're doing for this year. And having that big of a team, having 40 employees and being seasonal in Colorado, there's, January, February, we're extremely slow. But that doesn't change the bills. Right. And so it was a little rougher getting through this winter, but we made it. And we're already setting new records. We just crushed April from last year, literally crushed it by over $1 million. And so we're excited for that.
Wow, man, that's awesome. Well, something that's kind of jumping out at me as you're telling this story is, first of all, I work with a bunch of different construction trade companies, and usually as they're growing, they're sort of like selecting some additional revenue stream to go after. So it might be like they're residential and they're saying, all right, let's this year, let's try to break into commercial. Or they may say, let's start to do gate fabrication. and automation and just build that stuff in house, or let's now start selling to the DIYers, right? And you've named like every single one of those things, so, or they may say, let's get into decking, right? And it's like somehow you've just sort of like branched out in every single direction. I'm wondering, like, well, you probably didn't do that all at the same time. It probably happened in stages, but like, is there a secret to being able to do that? Because it's very challenging for a company to break into a completely new product segment or a new customer segment or something like that. Like, how do you guys do that so successfully?
With gate fabrication, you just got to be able to have the facility to do it. I've gone through 5 different smaller. I was first in a shared yard. I started in my garage, went to a storage unit, went to a shared yard, and then went to another like back alley yard by the railroad tracks, had a mobile office, like a construction trailer for our office. No place to fabricate gates. But then our next yard was a bigger facility, and there I had a shop and was able to fabricate and get a welder on. So it was just until we could do that, have the facility to do it, we started doing it. Like right now we're actually milling lumber. So we're actually datoing posts and doing things like that, because at this location, we finally have enough space for the saws and ability to kind of do that. So that's one aspect of it. The decks kind of came on relatively early. I was fortunate to have a good friend who is a master craftsman. He's built decks. He's worked for a company called Mosaic, which is a very large deck company around here. They build $500,000 decks with kitchens and fireplaces. So the decks he does for us are pretty attainable per se, compared to what he's used to building, like when he worked for Mosaic. But it was, kind of it's a bunch of what I call divine appointments when it comes to relationships. I was able to get plugged in with the right people, whether it was my deck builder or whether it was my automator or whether it was the attorney that I have. Unfortunately, the attorney I have represented one of the large fence companies here in the Denver metro area for 20 years. And I, by chance, happened to get hooked up with this person. And the beauty is that I'm not going to present him with anything he hasn't seen before. And so having an attorney that knows that stuff was a huge help. So part of it was just, divine appointments and luck of the draw. But other times we decided, hey, so I started retail back 2 yards ago, and we'd sell some. It isn't until this year that my retail is seriously taken off. Now we're in a good location. I have a lot of supply. We have a name that's been known. Sometimes you just got to rest in your market position for a little bit for people to get to know you, because they don't know how big you are. Most fence companies are not that large until they start seeing your vehicles around town and your commercials on TV. So one thing I did last year is I did TV marketing on commercials on Fox 31. And what was crazy, it was crazy expensive, but it was great because it created the brand identity that I needed. And people in the industry would get back to me and tell me, hey, I saw your commercial today. Or, hey, we get developers calling us because they saw our commercial. So like this year, I'm not running commercials because that was last year's thing. This year, I'm going to drive business a different way. But I did it strictly for brand identity. So I've had to learn to rest in our position, rest in our market share. And this year, I see it. I see the growth just in retail alone. I sold more in retail last month than I normally sell a quarter. So it just kind of goes to show me that there's just, you want retail to sell. When I started selling retail, I was hoping I'd sell more because I have it, might as well sell it. I'm not, I only have to restock every 60 days. So, but just now am I seeing it, but this process started, 2.5 years ago, starting to do retail sales to do-it-yourselfers or contractors. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that. So part of it is just time. The time that it takes to evolve in your market and the time that it takes for people to recognize you, and letting them know what you do. So part of our TV marketing was exposing ourselves as a bigger company, because a lot of times they're like, who are you guys? Because we're the newest kids on the block in my Denver market. But lo and behold, every day we're gaining market share.
Yeah. I guess what I'm really impressed with is your team, honestly, because, as business owners, it's easy for us to say, oh, I want to grow into this customer segment, or now I want to start offering this new product or whatever. But then it's like your team, they're the people who actually have to do it. The sales team now has a completely different sales script because now they have to work in the decking, and then the project management team, now they're trying to manage like multiple products simultaneously within the same thing. It's like you just add complexity. It's like when we work with our residential customers, this is our process. But when we work with our commercial customers, this is our process. And so the complexity grows and grows and grows. And so I just think it's really, it speaks to how strong your team is, the fact that they're able to take all that on and like synthesize it and be like, yeah, we can handle this. I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, no, thank you. I am grateful for my team. I couldn't do this alone. I constantly remind them that, our team acronym, together, empowered, aligned, making a difference, because I can't do it without them. But one thing I did do is some of my team members have ownership in the company,
Okay.
where I've decided, hey, once I have a manager who I decide that I don't want to do this without you, I give them a stock option inside of the company. So most of my long-term managers, like that I mentioned earlier, all have a percentage of stock within the company that will fully vest at some point, and either they can sell their stock back to me, or they can cash out. It has triggers in case we sell the company. But that's something I decided to do because as a sole owner, I mean, granted, I'm the one taking all the risk. I'm the one, putting out everything to make sure this happens. They just kind of have to cash their check every 2 weeks. But I've decided that, what, if I want to keep these people long term, I want it to be worth it for them. I want them to be able to have something when they walk away from pouring their heart into it, like I poured my heart into it. So one of the things that I can say is that we are somewhat employee owned. Up to about 20% of the company is employee owned. And so I've just reached a point where when I decide that I can't do it without you, I make you a stock offer. Now, the people that came in early, they got bigger offers, right? And the people that come in later get smaller offers because there's only so much of the company I'm going to share with the employees. But I'm really thankful. Like I said, when I started this, I didn't plan on doing this, but one thing I take really serious is that we feed 40 families and put food on the table for 40 families on a weekly basis. And to me, that's huge to be able to say, hey, we've created 40 jobs in our market. We have a great team. We have fun working together. And we've gone through our struggles. We've had to reshape culture and reshape things, because as you keep adding people to your team, things can easily change if you don't keep your finger on the tempo of what's going on. But I really strive to be a good employer. Not only do I strive to make sure that I take putting food on people's tables very serious, but we try to do little things that are different. We just celebrated 5 years. So I had an ice cream truck come last week, and I can't remember the name of it. Hip Hop truck is what it's called here in Denver. And they got these cool gelatos, and they can be dipped in different types of flavors and different types of toppings. And so we had the Hip Hop truck come, and we just celebrated our 5th year anniversary. Last month, we had a focus, since it's one of our slower months, on financial wellness and health. So we had the previous Denver Bronco player Mark Jackson from the Three Amigos, actually, who is in financial services now, come and teach my staff about credit, teach about what it takes to buy a home, things like that, how to protect your credit, how to secure finances moving forward. We do have a 401k with the match program here, so we've got to talk about that a little bit. But we also brought in a yoga instructor and did some yoga sessions, because we feel that if people make good choices outside of work, it's going to only enhance the decisions they make when they're at work. So we try to keep it real. We try to have a good time. We have team meetings outside of the office, depending on the department. Every year I have a huge Christmas party. I rent out all of Bolero, and we have laser tag, bowling, all kinds of stuff, a gift exchange. We bring in a key speaker. Last year was Mark Jackson, of course. And he talked about teams. When you get to hear the stories about him and John Elway in the huddle, it's pretty cool. So we try to keep it real, but we really do focus on the team. There's many times that we have a monthly team meeting, have a weekly manager meeting. My operations has their meeting once a week. We do sales and I get together. So one of the things that I've learned to step away from now is I have an operations director, and he's doing such a great job. I've just learned to step away, and now I kind of help sales, and I kind of have my hand in like commercial stuff, or the deck stuff. And my goal is just to be available to my team and be, instead of being the Michael Jordan on the team, which I once was, I've learned to be the dumbest guy in the room, right? And just teach people to ask questions like, what should I do? Well, I said, well, ask your team member. What's your team member say? And get people really synergized, because at one point I was the guy with all the answers, and I realized that wasn't going to work, because then everybody's dependent upon me. And even when I brought in my director of operations, he says, why do you have managers? You just tell everybody what to do all the time. And so he's like, I'm like, all right, well, let's change that. So in this part of my career, 5 years into this, I'm having to unlearn things. I'm having to unlearn being the smartest guy in the room. I'm having to unlearn having all the answers for people and get them to think for themselves. That way they're motivated and accountable. If I tell them what to do all the time, there's no accountability in that. And there's no ability to think through past that if I tell you what to do. So I'm learning a lot at my age. I'm almost 50 years old, and not only in this area of my life, but in every area of my life, I'm having to unlearn things. I think that's the beginning of wisdom. I don't know, but it's been great. So all I can say is I'm excited for these next 5 years for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. You've clearly built something really, really cool. I'm glad you told me about all the different culture building and gelato and yoga type stuff that you're doing, and yeah, stepping away from the business as the owner, stepping away a little bit more into a different type of role is huge, especially with how big you guys are. So sounds like you're checking all the boxes, man. And I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Thank you very much.
So much for having me. It was awesome.